The weekend of May 7th, 2023 was supposed to be a time of national unity. Across the United Kingdom, millions were celebrating the coronation of King Charles III. Street parties were being set up. Union Jacks were draped from windows, and for a moment, the heavy atmosphere of London's urban struggles seemed to lift. But in the borough of Southwark, specifically the streets of Peckham, a different kind of energy was vibrating. It was an energy of resentment, of old scores, and of a looming violent debt that was about to be collected. To understand how 7 young men ended up facing a combined century behind bars, we have to look past the headlines. We have to look at the code. In certain pockets of the city, there is an unwritten law that says the state cannot protect you. Only your set can. And when that law is broken, the response isn't a phone call to 999. It's a mobilization. This isn't just a story about a shooting. It's a story about the machinery of a revenge plot. How a group of men transformed from civilians to a paramilitary-style hit squad in a matter of hours. Welcome to the platform. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Every explosion needs a spark. This spark was struck in the cold blue light of the early morning hours on Sunday, May 7th. In East Dulwich, just a stone's throw from Peckham, an associate of Tyreek Smykel and Timothy Newton was intercepted. He was stabbed multiple times. In the world of London's gang culture, a stabbing isn't just an assault. It's an insult. It's a challenge to the power and the territory of the victim's friends. By the time the sun came up, the news had hit the phones of the Peckham group. 26-year-old Tyreek Smykel, a man already known to the authorities, and 18-year-old Timothy Newton headed straight for the hospital. Imagine that hospital room. The smell of antiseptic, the hum of monitors. But instead of words of comfort, there were whispers of war. This wasn't a vigil. It was a briefing. They needed to know who did it. They needed a name, a car description, or a location. The moment they walked out of those hospital sliding doors, the peace of the coronation weekend was officially over. The hunt was on. The police would later describe what happened next as a highly organized military-style operation. Smykel and Newton didn't just grab a knife and run back to East Dulwich. They called in the cavalry. 5 other men joined the ranks: Kai Davis Francis, Dwan Correa, Shaquille Marsh, Tyrese Corty. They gathered at a pre-arranged location to tool up. This is where the case gets particularly dark. They didn't just have knives. They pulled out a bag containing a sawn-off shotgun, a weapon designed for one thing: maximum damage at close range. They also gathered machetes and zombie-style knives. They then organized their transport. To be effective in a city like London, you need layers. They had 3 vehicles: a stolen moped for scouting and weaving through traffic, and 2 cars to provide cover and force. By 3 p.m., while families were sitting down for the Sunday lunch, this convoy was rolling through Peckham. 7 men, all hidden behind balaclavas, eyes scanning every passing vehicle for the 22 gang rivals they blamed for the morning's stabbing. The Peckham group spotted a vehicle they believed belonged to their rivals. In broad daylight, the convoy boxed the target in. Tyreek Smykel, the designated cleaner, didn't hesitate. He leveled the shotgun. Boom! The blast shattered the driver's window. Glass sprayed across the asphalt like diamonds. The target vehicle roared to life, the driver's instinct for survival taking over. A high-speed chase began through the residential back streets. Imagine being a resident here, looking out your window and seeing a stolen moped and 2 cars screaming past, with a man leaning out of a window brandishing a shotgun. The chase moved toward the Dog Kennel Hill estate. Smykel fired again. This was the moment that shocked even the most hardened detectives. A mother was walking just a few feet away with her young child. The pellet spread from a shotgun is unpredictable. Had the aim been off by just a few inches, we would be talking about a tragedy involving an innocent child. The climax came when one of the victim's cars attempted a high-speed turn, lost traction and flipped. It tumbled through the air, a cacophony of screeching metal, before landing upside down. The victim, miraculously alive, crawled out of the shattered sunroof. He ran. He didn't head for the road, he headed for the gardens of nearby houses, desperately looking for a place to hide. But Smeagol was relentless. He jumped out of his car, scaled a fence and cornered the man. He didn't kill him. He aimed for the leg and pulled the trigger. A roadman's punishment, a permanent reminder of who owns the streets. The group fled, confident they had won, but they had underestimated the Metropolitan Police's Specialist Crime Command. The investigation was a masterclass in modern forensics. In London, you are never truly off camera. Detectives began the painstaking process of CCTV trawling. They didn't just look at the scene of the shooting, they went back hours, then days. They tracked the vehicles back to their nest. The violence was calculated, cold, and showed a total disregard for life. But as the smoke cleared, the clock started ticking. For the Metropolitan Police, it was a desperate race to intercept the cell before they disappeared into the London fog. The city spoke back, a flood of 999 calls and a trail of digital breadcrumbs, CCTV and private footage allowed detectives to stitch together the group's every move. Then came the breakthrough. A tip from the public led to a stash of stolen vehicles. On the saddle of a discarded moped, forensic teams found the smoking gun they needed, the DNA of Tyreek Michael and his associate, Timothy. They weren't just following footprints, they were following signals. Specialists tore through cell tower data, pinning the suspects to the exact coordinates of the muzzle flashes. While the group celebrated in Ibiza, thinking they'd escaped the heat, the trap was being set. The homecoming was short-lived. As Malachi Davis Francis and Kai Davis Francis stepped off the plane at Gatwick, the handcuffs were waiting. One accomplice languished in a Spanish jail after a bar fight, but the rest of the net was closing in on London. In a series of dawn raids, the remaining suspects were cornered. Tyreek Michael, desperate and trapped, tried to dive through a window, tossing a bag into the night. Inside, a lethal shotgun and a hoard of ammunition. But there was no escape. Along with the weapon, police unearthed the ballistic vest and the helmet he wore during the hit. In just 35 days, the entire crew was dismantled. The trial at the Central Criminal Court, the Old Bailey, was a somber affair. The defendants, who had acted like warriors on the streets of Peckham, now sat in the glass-walled dock, facing the reality of decades behind bars. The prosecution's argument was simple. This wasn't self-defense. This was an organised paramilitary tit-for-tat that endangered the lives of every person in Peckham that day. On October 18, 2024, the gavel came down. Tyreek Michael was identified as the lead aggressor. The judge handed him a life sentence, ensuring he would serve a minimum of nearly 18 years before even being considered for parole. Kai Davis, Francis, Duane Correa, and the others followed. The sentences were read out like a tolling bell. 17 years, 16 years, 14 years, even 18-year-old Timothy Newton, who had his whole life ahead of him, was handed nearly a decade in a young offender institution. Total 102 years. The Peckham Seven had set out to protect their reputation. Instead, they ended up as a statistic, another example of how the cycle of violence for violence only leads to two places, the graveyard or the cage. As the seven were led down to the cells, the streets of Peckham remained. The cars were cleared, the glass was swept up, but the lesson remains for anyone else thinking of picking up the code. The law might be slow, but it is heavy. And once it drops, it stays dropped for a long, long time. Thank you for tuning in to the platform. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.